like you to start by sharing with us how you've enjoyed journalism. I mean, because I know that you've lived all your life writing and publishing and all of that. And what do you make of the profession and how you've been able to grow and get to this height?
Well, thank you for that question. I like to tell people that I came into journalism by accident, more out of joblessness. My original dream was to be a teacher, probably marry a teacher and live happily thereafter, because I was surrounded by teachers. My brother, my older brother, is a professor of physics. He retired from the Department of Physics in Ife. He got a PhD from Stanford. My older sister, Feishara, who was also a teacher, she retired as a teacher. Her husband was a school principal. I grew up with them. I worked in the university library at the Ezekiah Oluwasomi Library in Ile at the University of Ife in 1977 to 1978. So I was surrounded by scholars. The people I grew up knowing and seeing as celebrities were lecturers. I had been a lecturer myself from 1982 to 83 at the then Oyo State College of Arts and Science, where I was teaching Yoruba and also literature in English. So that was my dream. I wanted to be a teacher. I love to impart knowledge. People have always seen me as someone who has the capacity to influence young people. Even as a young lecturer, I was only 22 years old when I started lecturing at the Oyo State College of Arts and Science. A lot of students who were not taking my subjects used to come just to come and listen to my raps. I was very popular in the school. Everybody wanted to be in my class. So that was my dream. I had a first degree in Yoruba studies. So there is no way I would have thought I would be a writer in English. But later I went back to do my master's in literature in English, the first Nigerian ever to attempt such. It was quite audacious, and the Department of Literature was not going to give me the opportunity because they felt, how can someone with a first degree in Yoruba come in to do a master's? As a matter of fact, they sent me back to do some prerequisite subjects at the undergraduate level, and I didn't mind. I humbled myself and went back to do so. But within weeks, they realized that I was way ahead of the class. If you look behind me here, you will see the African Writers series, the Heinemann series of those days, the Gold Up, the Achebes, the Shoyinkas, the Ngugi Watheongos, the Ayikweyamas, the Kofi Awunos, the Mongobetis, the Alex Lagumas, the Nagui Mafuzis, all of them, you know. And so they realized that I didn't need to waste my time doing prerequisite courses at the undergraduate level. So they gave me an exemption, so I was able to now concentrate on my master's program proper. So I did that between 1986 and 1988. So the next thing was, okay, so what was I going to do with a first degree in Yoruba and a master's in literature in English? So I started looking for a job, a teaching appointment, tried the colleges of education in Ikere, Ekiti, Adeyemi College of Education, possibly in my department in Ife. But there was an embargo placed on appointments and promotions by the military government in those days. So they've always said they don't have money for education. The Nigerian governments will have money for everything else except education. So I became very frustrated. While I was working at the Motel Royal Limited, owned by Obakun Adesiju Adeolubushe, the second at the time, I met a journalist from Lagos called Onukaba Adinoye Ojo. now of blessed memory. So Onukaba had come from the Guardian newspaper to cover the Olojo festival. And that was how we became friends. So when he was going back, I told him that I had so much robust knowledge of Ile-Ife, having been born and bred in Ife, and that I could give more insight into the Olojo festival. And he encouraged me, oh, why not? So between me and a friend of mine, we call him Kwesi Samson, we sat down together and we wrote our first article on the Olojo Festival, which was published by the African Guardian magazine. You can imagine how tall I felt, seeing our bylines in the Guardian. So that was the beginning of my romance with writing. Even at that stage, I didn't still think I was going to be a journalist. I started looking for a job with any publishing company like Heinemann, like Evans. They were all based in Ibadan. If you go around along Jericho in Ibadan, you will see a lot of the publishing houses. So that was my first instinct, that I should go and work with a publishing firm. Again, I still couldn't get a job. So that's why I keep saying that my journey, my foray into journalism was totally fortuitous. It was nothing deliberate, it was nothing planned. But I think, again, I believe in the word destiny. I think I was born to be a journalist, unknown to me. I mean, as a young man in Ile-Ife, I was born in Aladura Church. There were prophecies about me that if I survived the first 7 years, I would be very famous in the future. But I didn't know where the fame was going to come from, because my family was not a privileged one. I didn't come from what they call the background of privilegencia, But God clearly had a plan for me. So when I couldn't get a job, Onukaba came again for another Olojo festival, and I said, so Dele, now that you are doing your master's and you're about to finish, this was in 1988, why don't you come and let's see if we can get you a job at the African Guardian? And I said I wouldn't mind, because my mom was getting old. My mom was a stark illiterate, poor woman, struggling to just send me to school. She was anxious for me to have a job so that I can relieve her, from the hard work. And so I went to Lagos. This was April 1988, and Onukaba took me to the editor of the African Guardian, Mr. Nduka Irabo. And when I met Nduka Irabo, he said, oh, unfortunately, he couldn't give me a job. There was no vacancy. I was so disappointed. I was so frustrated. I'd come all the way from Ife. Before then, I'd started writing articles for The Guardian and for Sunday Tribune. The Guardian will pay me 25 naira per article. I will wait to publish 4 and travel from Ife to Lagos to collect 100 naira and then go back to Ife. But then, for me, I didn't mind. It wasn't about the money. It was about what I call preparation. In life, you must have what they call a stage where you are preparing for the future. So I was preparing. I was writing for the Sunday Tribune under Mr. Fodu Olamiti, who was the editor. I was not paid by the Tribune. I didn't mind. So the most important thing was people were noticing me. And then, boom, one day, Kunle Ajibade and I wrote an article which catapulted us straight to the top of the media. Everybody was talking about us. And so that was how come when I came to Lagos, of course, I was already known. And then I couldn't get a job at the Guardian. Onukaba now suggested that, why don't you try Concord? I said, oh, I don't want Concord. You see, and this is a good story I like to tell always, that people should not judge anyone unfairly. What I'd read about Abiola was that Chief Abiola was an Islamic fundamentalist, that Abiola was a millionaire fanatic. In fact, some people called him Gongoshu, the millionaire fanatic. They used to abuse him. Fela sang with his name, International Thief. So I was coming with that bias So that, hey, how can I go and work for a man that they said is a rogue, is this, is that? So I'm saying this story so that people can know the background that influenced what I'm doing today. So, but there is a Yoruba saying, if the imam is very hungry, even if he sees a monkey, he will eat, you know. If they give him a pig, he will say, no, call it normal, let me eat. Call it beef and let me eat. That was my situation. I was desperate to find a job. And so reluctantly, I went to Concord newspapers. Unknown to me, that is where my destiny was waiting for me, you know. So I got there. That was the first day I met Mr. Bayo Onanuga. He was deputy editor of the African Concord. That was when I met Babafemi Ojudu, Senator Ojudu, you know, our good friend and brother. And they told me Mr. Louis Obi, the editor, was out, but I should wait for him. So in the meantime, we were all discussing, and you know, Babafemi Ojudu had gone to Ife and all that. So then when the editor came, so they announced my presence, and I went into his office and I said, good afternoon, sir. My name is Dele Momodu. And he said, you are Dele Momodu? I said, yes. The same Dele Momodu? I said, yes. He said, what can I do for you? I said, I need a job, sir. He said, you need a job? I said, yes, sir. He said, I will give you one right away. I thought he was kidding. And this is also another good story, especially for those who attack and abuse me without knowing where I'm coming from. So the man lectured me. Mr. Louis Obi lectured me. He said, do you know why I'm employing you immediately? I said, I don't know, sir. He said for him, he would rather employ a good and gifted writer than employ someone who went to journalism school. I said, I thought your priority would be those who went to journalism. He said, no. He said, a good writer can turn a small story into a big story. He said, but the so-called professional journalist can see a good story and he will not even recognize it. Or if he recognizes it, he will not know how to craft it into a beautiful story. He said, with your background in Yoruba and a master's in literature in English, I believe you will be able to write good copies for us. And I need people who can write cover stories. That was how I started. I had to beg him to give me 2 weeks. He asked me how much salary I would like to take. I said I wouldn't know because I was coming from Ife. I didn't know the situation of things in Lagos. He said, oh, I should just tell him. So I quickly calculated 700 naira was a lot of money to me then. I said, if I could get 700 naira a month, then that would be fine. Then he asked me, so would that be a total package or what will it be? I said, I don't know what the total package is. Then he said, okay, don't worry. I'll round it up. What you're asking for is 8,400 a year. I'll give you 9,000. That was how I got a job. So I begged him to let me go back to Ife to go and tell my mom that I found a job and I will have to now prepare. The next question is, where would I stay? So I had to contact a few friends during that journey, and I got Dimbo Ajiboye Bessie. He also went to Ife. He's a lawyer, and he agreed immediately that, oh, anytime you are ready, come. And I squatted with him somewhere around Ebute Meta. From there, I got another friend, Mr. Shegun Adigbeson, who was working in Ganifa Emis Chambers. And then he also brought me to his house, and I started staying with him for some time. Thereafter, I went to squat again. I was almost a perpetual squatter. It's not easy. Because it's not easy. I was squatting with Mr. Biodun Obishakin somewhere in around Onigbongbo in Maryland or Anthony Village. That's more of Anthony Village. Anyway, to cut the long story short, that was how I came to Lagos. Working in the African Concord magazine, of course, that was a serious journal. It was more intellectual in the disposition. I worked from May 1988, and then suddenly in February, I was told that I was being transferred to another paper. I'm like, so soon? Just a minute. I said, so soon? They said, yes, that my MD, Dr. Doyin Abiola, has an idea for a weekend paper. And he said they should poach people from different departments. Excuse me.
Bless
And
you.
I won the pig from African Concord. I went to my editor. I said, editor, me, I don't want to go to a weekend paper home. That's another lesson for those who are watching us. I don't want to go to a weekend paper. A weekend paper, that's like junk. So I'll not be writing walkabout like that guy times, you know, who used to write walkabout. I said, with a master's degree, I consider it a demotion. Again, never assume things. Try to find out. So they told me that, well, the editor told me, he said he has no choice, that once the superior authority has instructed him, he must comply. Of course, I had no other job. Reluctantly, I agreed, and I joined others. Mr. Mike Awoyifa was the editor of the new paper called Weekend Concord. Then Mr. Dingba Igwe of blessed memory was the deputy. So I joined them. And the first task or assignment my boss gave me was to go and look for a earth-shaking story. Again, I want people to listen. Those who don't know what I'm doing today, for them to know where that came from. He said the birth of a new paper, a new publication, is like the giving birth to a new baby. He said a new baby will not come to this world without making noise. He said, so the first story to be published must make so much noise. He called it a scoop. That was when I heard the word scoop. He said, he trusts me to go into the forest, go into the wilderness, and come back within a week or two with that story. Hey! If possible, I would probably have consulted the oracle. That how do I get this story? I started wondering in the process, and I'm looking at, I started writing down names of those who can generate news. You see, the important thing to note here is that you need news makers for you to get earth-shaking stories. The newsmaker may be a saint, it might be a sinner. So that I'm sure you are following my direction. The most important thing is you must get your story. So I went out and eventually I stumbled on Mrs. Laide Soyinka. She was the library at the Ogun State University in Agoiwoye. So I went there, I saw her, and I told her I wanted to interview her, that I've never read anything about her relationship with Professor Wole Soyinka, their marriage, their children, what happened, that they separated. You won't believe it. It was as if I used juju. She just fell for the way I spoke to her. And I assured her I was not going to banalize the story. And not only did she speak to me extensively, comprehensively, I also got pictures of their wedding. I don't think any newspaper had ever seen that picture. Wole Soyinka was in a dashiki, you know, and to think that Wole Soyinka, of course, was my idol right from Ife. If I had one idol, I worshipped, that was Soyinka. I'm not sure if you knew, but so anything Soyinka, any story, if you come into my library here and you see the section for Soyinka, is very exclusive. I don't mix it up with other books, you know. So you can imagine getting this bomb of a story from his wife. So when I came back to Lagos, you know, in those days, we didn't have telephones like now. This was in 1989. I told my editor, I said, I'm back. I said, but we have to settle something first. He said, what? The allowance you gave me was too small, and that the story I have deserves a better allowance. I said, let me see the story first now before you start campaigning. I said, okay, I know what I have. when I dropped the story on his desk, he was dancing, he was high on something. When my boss sees a good story, he says it. He said, nothing can give you a better orgasm than a good story. That was it. Anything I wanted at that moment, he was ready to do it. You know, and that was how we launched the weekend paper. I think that would have been 3rd of March, 1989. We serialized the story for 2 weeks. Then the 3rd week, so during that period, I already knew their son, Ilemakin in Ife. So I approached Ilemakin to speak about his mom and dad. I got that story again. So for the first 3 weeks, I was controlling the cover of a brand new, earth-shaking weekend paper. And that was how I became a star. In fact, between that March and May, I was given a double promotion. I started from staff writer, so I skipped senior staff writer and went straight to literary editor. I was that hot. You know, when you come from a poor background, you want to work like what they call Okubo in Yoruba. you work like your life depends on that, like work is going out of vogue. So I became a literary editor. 6 months after that, in November 1989, I became a news editor. So that made me number 3 in hierarchy. Nakawo Infa, Dingba Igwe, Dele Momodu. It was unprecedented. Then after that, my good friend and sister, May Ellen Ezekiel, God bless her soul, had left her job as the editor of Quality Magazine and started a new publication called Classic. So, but she had a transition period, like an interlude between that job and the new publication. So she was writing a column, the popular Me column for Weekend Concord, and I was the one now editing her. And she saw the way, my attention to detail and the way I handled her column. So one day she came, and again, this is an interesting story. In Concord, that people called an Islamic empire, she entered our office and she found me with a bottle of Gulda on my table. I had one leg on top of the table. I had a Gulda and I was writing my story. In those days, we used to write longhand, you know, and then you give to a secretary who will go and type it before, you know, it was such a rigorous process. So she came and saw me drinking. And she said, oh boy, that's how she said, sure. That's how she talks, you know, this worried kind of that. Then, sure. Oh boy, what are you doing? You are writing, you are drinking, you have one leg on the table, you are drinking Gulda. I said, because the story I'm writing today is a very delicate one. He said, what makes it delicate? I said, well, the first edition of the paper had gone out. That was during the SAP riot. You understand? So she said, so why is the story that difficult that you have to drink? I said, no, that I needed to cool down because the title, what they published in the first edition was Black Wednesday in Lagos, God of the Riot. So I told my boss, I said, that is wrong. Between Wednesday and Saturday, Black Wednesday would have turned green or blue, that it would be stale, that you can't use that headache. But that one had already, so the one for Lagos edition, I now suggested that we must do something punchier. So my editor, and a very good listener, so he asked me, so what do I suggest? I said we should write the rumors that fueled the riots. Hey, imagine now writing that Babangida, they said Babangida stole so much money that his wife has a boutique in Paris. You know, the way they used to carry rumors. Again, these are the things that affected me forever. And even Dr. Tai Sholani was part of those carrying the rumor that the thing was written by Ebony in America. Unknown to people, Ebony does not write such salacious gossips. But of course, rumor mongers have a way of fabricating their lies and making it look very authentic. Fortunately, we had a publisher and chairman, Chief Moshood Abiola, who was a global traveler. He landed that very day. It must have been it was a Friday because we were coming out on Saturday. He landed that day from Europe and came back with all the copies of Ebony in the last couple of weeks. So we were able to establish that no such story ever appeared in Ebony. In fact, we did a bromide of the cover of that Ebony magazine. So I now wrote all the rumors, what people said about Babangida and his wife and how they were stealing money and all that. And I now finished it by showing that there was nothing like that in Ebony and that Ebony has never featured Babangida or any Nigerian to the best of our knowledge. That story sold out. So that was how Helen started developing interest in me. Then she approached me that she wanted me to join Classic. How do you leave an empire like the Concord Empire to go to a smaller place? She made me an offer I couldn't resist. That offer made me to become the highest paid editor in Nigeria. You can imagine coming to Lagos, and by the time I was exactly 2 years on my job as a journalist, I became the highest. In fact, by the time I was so close to my editor, so I took the offer to my editor, and he didn't mind. That's one of the reasons we're still close till today. Even this morning we were talking. So I went to him and said, "Sir, I have this offer." The man shouted, "Say what? Ah, oh boy, even me, I won't reject this one." I said, "But how would I face Dr. Doyin Abiola, our MD, or even Chief Abiola, who had developed interest in me by the..." He said, "You would have to go and meet her. Once you can convince her, then she will convince the husband." You know? So, but the clincher was not the money. Money was not what clinched it for me. What clinched it was what he said. He said, "Look, you have already reached your peak at Weekend Concord. So, I am number 1. Dingba is number 2. You are number 3. Unless you kill both of us, that's where you are going again. You've reached your peak." And that got me. He said, so I said, then you are a young man. When you are young, you can still take risks. So that was how he taught me how to be a risk. At this stage, he said, and I know you daily, even if things go wrong at Classic, you will never have to look for it. You will not believe it. I can't remember ever going anywhere and anybody asking for my certificate. It's incredible. Nobody will believe it. To write an application and be begging and giving people, no. I'll go there, whatever, people will invite me. So that was how I went to Dr. Doyin Abiola to tell her. She didn't like it, but she told me that she wouldn't stop my progress. She said, "Did I need more money?" I said, "No, that I wanted more challenges." And that's the thing about me. I love to be challenged. And she said, "Well, that makes sense." I said, "Because I've reached my peak already." My editor drove me personally to go and take that job. He drove me there. I will never forget, you know, and that was it. And of course, I told Helen to give me about two weeks. Those 2 weeks before resuming at number 3 Allen Avenue, by the roundabout, then what we call the penthouse. That was my first penthouse. So I made sure that those 2 weeks I prepared again. In whatever I do, I believe in preparation. After preparation, then there will be readiness. I got 6 cover stories ready. I wanted to make sure that as an editor, I would not have to depend on someone else. I like to take full responsibility. That's leadership. You must be ready to take full responsibility for your action. Don't blame others for your failure. So I had 6 solid cover stories ready, so that even if the reporters decide to sabotage me because I am new, there may be disgruntled elements within the system, I was ready to survive for at least 1.5 months. And that was it. So I came, and then we started doing our stories, and so things were happening. And to summarize it, that was the beginning of my journey into celebrity journalism. I started meeting big people, talking to ministers. I had access to the high and mighty, getting invited to Jordan Barrett, getting invited to different, parts of Nigeria. And it was fun.